In today's hand analysis, we'll be dissecting a 3-bet pot which unfolded between the big blind and the hijack. We'll start by breaking down the pre-flop decisions and then dive into post-flop with insights using our solver GTO Plus. Our hero in the hijack, holding the ace-jack of hearts, opens to 2 big blinds. The action folds around to the big blind, who is our villain in the hand, who 3-bets to 11 big blinds. Our hero accepts this challenge by calling the 3-bet. The flop comes jack of spades, 7 of diamonds, 3 of clubs, giving our hero top pair, top kicker. The big blind bets for around half the pot, here 11.25 big blinds, and hero without hesitation calls this bet. The turn reveals the 10 of clubs, completing the 9-8 straight, and also bringing flush draws and straight draws. The big blind bets once again for half the pot, here 22.5 big blinds. Hero in the hijack calls again, leading to the river card, the king of spades. The big blind now bets all in for 55.25 big blinds, and our hero folds. So that's the hand history. Next, we'll take a look at the pre-flop decision and how that plays out. We'll use our pre-flop viewer, for which the basic ranges, as you see here, are freely available using the link below. Folding to the hijack kicks things off by opening roughly 23% of hands, typically to a size of between 2 and 2.25 big blinds, and can go slightly higher at lower frequencies. The big blind, the hijack, after opening to 2 big blinds, we see the cutoff engages around 11.5% of the time, mostly by 3-betting. Once the cutoff folds, the big blind continues a little over 15% of the time. And once the button folds, the small blind continues around 13.5% of the time. When action folds to the big blind continues mostly by calling, given the good pot odds being laid out by the hijack, here calling roughly 35% of hands, but also has a strong and very polar 3-bet range. This robust 3-bet range consists of pocket queens through aces, ace-king, and ace-queen suited as the value combinations. For bluffs, the big blind's arsenal includes suited connectors, suited high cards such as king 3 suited, king 7 suited, and queen 8 suited, suited wheel aces, ace 2 suited, and ace 5 suited, being the highest frequency, and some strong offsuit hands such as king queen offsuit, ace queen offsuit, queen jack offsuit. Notably, pocket jacks is in the grey area between calling and 3-betting. This 3-bet would be for value, but when it faces a 4-bet, it will find itself in a slightly tougher spot. The big blind can choose a variety of 3-bet sizes, down from around 10 big blinds all the way up to around 14 big blinds, with most sizes being between 11 and 13 big blinds. There is a slight split between the slightly smaller sizes, here 11 big blinds, and the slightly larger sizes, 13 big blinds, noting that the ace-queen suited quite frequently goes for the smaller sizes and avoids the larger sizes, while ace-king offsuit slightly prefers going larger. Today we'll look at the 11 big blind 3-bet. After the big blind 3-bets, the hijack continues as such, mostly folding here around the 4.7% of the time. The hijack calls 23.5% of its range, and the remaining goes into the 4-bet range. The hijack defends with a wide array of hands, especially the pocket pairs, 2s through 10s, which are indifferent between calling and folding. Note that pocket jacks and pocket queens never fold, mostly calling. The strong suited broadways, ace queen suited through ace 10 suited, and king queen suited through king 10 suited, also always continue. These slightly weaker suited Broadway hands, the queen jack suited and queen 10 suited, are indifferent, as well as ace queen offsuit being indifferent between folding, calling, and 3-betting. Note that ace king offsuit is mostly going for the call, but sometimes going for a 4-bet semi-bluff. The 4-betting range in the hijack focuses around pocket kings, pocket aces, and ace king suited for value, with bluffs and semi-bluffs, including king jack suited through king 9 suited, some suited aces such as ace 2 suited, ace 8 suited, and the odd underpair such as pocket 9s, pocket 10s. The 4-bet size ranges from around 20 big blinds up to around 25 big blinds. And in response to an all-in, it's reasonably easy to decide what to continue. Mostly the value component, pocket kings, pocket aces, and ace king suited, goes for the call, with weaker hands such as pocket jacks, pocket 10s, pocket queens, ace king offsuit, which make it into the 4-bet range at lower frequencies, being closer to indifferent. Now let's transition to our post-flop analysis. Here on this flop, the jack of spades, 7 of diamonds, and 3 of clubs, the big blind holds a slight range disadvantage with only 47.5% equity. Despite this, the hijack holds a polarity advantage with the overpairs pocket queens through aces, giving the big blind a notable edge, whereas the hijack only has their pocket queens and the sets being stronger than top pair. This polarity gives the big blind a reasonable edge with an overall range EV of approximately 11 big blinds out of the pot of 22.5 big blinds. Notably, the hijack holds a fair amount of top pair holdings, such as ace jack suited through queen jack suited, and many pocket pairs, of course all the pocket 10s through pocket 2s, which make up the middle of the hijack's range. The big blind's strategy on this flop is fairly polar, choosing sizes between half the pot and 75% of the pot, with a betting range consisting of the overpairs and top pairs for value, and hands such as the ace highs, namely ace king and ace queen, and weaker bluffs with overcards and gut shots such as king queen offsuit, queen 10 offsuit, and 10-9 suited, as well as the weaker suited connectors 6-5 and 5-4. Facing this half pot bet, the hijack responds predominantly by calling. This defensive strategy includes trapping with sets, as well as many of the top pair hands, as well as calling some of the overcard hands with some backdoors, such as king 10 suited with a backdoor straight draw and backdoor flush draw. Note that against a half pot bet, alpha is 1/3, but the hijack here is continuing at roughly 75% of the time. This is due to the high equity in the big blind's semi-bluffs. With such high equity and a low raising frequency out of the hijack necessarily needs to call wider in order to make the bluffs on the flop indifferent for the big blind. Other hands which continue are these weaker pocket pairs, 2s through 6s, which are indifferent for the pocket 4s through 6s, pocket 2s being a complete underpair, folds, and the other pocket pairs, 8s through 10s, always continue. After this call, we get the 10 of clubs, which adds some additional complexity to the hand. The big blind, after this call, maintains its polarity advantage, but also has an equity disadvantage. This card doesn't particularly improve any of the bluffs in the big blind's range on the flop, with the exception of, say, for example, Jack 10 suited and the 9-8 straight. However, this card does bring additional draws, flush draws with the 2 clubs and straight draws around the Jack and the 10. For example, the King Queen is now an open-ended straight draw. The Ace King and the Ace Queen are now gut shots. Given this high equity in the missed bluffs, the big blind opts to check at a fairly high frequency, here 58.5% of the time. In the big blind's checking range, there are some overpairs, mostly pocket kings, which goes for a check raise. This check raise prevents the hijack from betting into the big blind at incredibly high frequencies. Here, the hijack bets at around a 58% frequency after the big blind checks this turn. Here, if the hijack bets for half the pot, we see that the big blind often opts for an all-in check raise with around a 23% frequency. The hands which do this for value are the overpairs, as well as some of the 2 pairs. Note here in this simulation that these 2 sizes are very close together, and so the solver can't really tell the difference between the 2. If the big blind decides to assert control, they'll often bet for between 50% and 75% of the pot. Their betting range focuses heavily on these overpairs for value, here representing 46.6% of the half pot betting range, and also includes some of the bluffs, those ace highs with the gut shot, hands like King Queen with an open-ended straight draw. Facing this half pot bet, part of the hijack's strategy involves pushing all in with some of their strongest hands to deny that equity, namely the sets, jacks, 10s, 7s, and 3s, as well as some of the other pairs' pocket queens. Note that this pocket queens is more of an equity denial shove, with pocket queens here only having 44% equity against this betting range. Facing the all-in, clearly the big blind will snap call with all of their overpairs and be indifferent with many of their thin value hands, such as the top pair in that betting range. This turn shove over this bet plays a critical role in preventing the hijack from bluffing too frequently and denying equity from those bluffs. Despite this, on such a draw-heavy board, the hijack still needs to continue against this turn at a very high frequency, here continuing at around 75% of the time, while alpha against this half-pot bet is roughly 1/3. So here the hijack is calling more frequently to prevent these bluffs from realizing so much EV. The river, King of Spades, is a pivotal card which significantly shifts the dynamics in favor of the big blind. The King of Spades completes the Ace Queen straight and gives the big blind plenty of top pairs, such as the Ace King and the King Queen. The additional set, Pocket Kings, also comes into play. The King of Spades enhances the big blind's range equity to approximately 65%. It adds a significant amount of strong hands into the big blind's range, while in contrast, the hijack has far fewer of new top pairs They do have some ace king and king queen, some additional 2 pairs with king jack and king 10. However, these hands are at much lower frequency than in the big blind. The big blind constructs their all-in range around ace queen as the nut value combination, as well as pocket aces. Recall that when you're out of position, it is not necessary to have more than 50% equity against the calling range. This is because the alternative to betting is checking, and the opponent will bet their stronger hands all in anyway. If you have a hand near the top of your range, you will simply continue as a call. Therefore, the big blind's pocket aces all in is for thin value. Should the big blind choose to check, it is necessary for the hijack to take over the aggression at high frequency. This is because the stack to pot ratio is fairly low. Given the stack to pot ratio is low, the big blind should be constructing their checking range to be fairly weak. When the big blind does check, the hijack should be quite aggressive and bet all in with their ace king or stronger for value. Facing the all in, the big blind will simply call this bet with their top pair or stronger. Note that here ace king is indifferent between betting and checking. Therefore, the construction of this checking range out of the big blind on the river will necessarily include some fairly strong hands. Here we note that the set of kings and the set of jacks checks this river, as it blocks some of the check back holdings with king queen suited and jack x suited, such as ace jack and queen jack. Against the all in, hero chose to fold. In this simulation, the ace jack of hearts is indifferent between calling and folding to this all in bet. Overall, I would say that hero has played this hand quite well. Notably, this decision to fold to this river bet all in shows a deep understanding of the change to the range equity on this King of Spades river card. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these hand analyses, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel. And if you want more in-depth training content, you can sign up to the website using the link below, which gives you free access to the basic 6 max 100 big blind preflop ranges. If you want more than that, you can also sign up for the Pro membership. If you have any further questions, you can join our Discord channel using the link on the website.